Enjoy your evening.
I think I would now like to request all of the leaders who just spoke to come back on stage, and we have a few question and answers which they would take. But before that, I'll request Sonia to moderate a brief session with them, try to pick their minds a little bit more about what they feel about the next couple of years, what they feel about how things are going to move after this new announcement. It's like a standard thing. So I'd like to request Jayesh also to come on board. It's like a very standard thing in terms of management declares the results, and then there is a Q&A session. The CFO and the management team sits across the stage, and there are some questions and answers. So I think, yeah, we are all there. And I'd like to request Sonia to moderate the session.
Since we are.
Nick. Yeah, I'm sorry. And Nick, please.
Nick is not wired.
Maybe you can use the mic.
Yeah, the mic is
All right, okay.
Is this on?
It's on.
You want to come here or
I'm okay.
You're fine? Okay.
So since we are nearing dinner time, I just have one question each for all our leaders on the dais, and then we'll open it to Q&A to our members. So Paul, I'll start first with you. You mentioned, when you spoke to us, you mentioned about the three-part strategy, focus on member value, and thank you so much. You've been extraordinarily kind and generous to our India members. So could you just, so you spoke about 3-4 different things. Could you just put all the pieces together for us and tell us what it really means for us in India, what impact it will have, and how do you see going forward?
Well, I think in a phrase, a healthy, sustainable industry that will work to support you in your careers going forward. I mean, that's the way I see it, is that if we can together work to raise standards in our industry, to really connect what we do as professionals with an end purpose that benefits society. And I think sometimes our industry has rather forgotten what it's in business to do. That we're not in business to enrich ourselves, we're in business to enrich the societies in which we work in, and to help direct savings towards infrastructure investment or companies that can best help grow societies, to help run people's pension plans, to help people save for their retirement, to pay for their mortgages, to pay for their kids' education. That really what we do is highly socially useful, and the only way that we can really build that sustainable business model is by having the values that lie at the heart of a profession. So everything that we're trying to do is to really construct that profession and reconnect us with our social purpose. And that sounds a little bit hokey, it sounds a little bit sort of new age and quasi-religious, and it's not meant to. It's meant to be really enlightened self-interest. That if we want to have, and India is a very young country, if we all want to have jobs that take you forward until you reach my grand old age, then we need to build an industry that serves our clients. And that's what we're about.
Thank you, Paul. Jayesh, we saw some figures in the presentation that we made about charter pendings and candidates. We contribute to 8% of total candidates last year for CFA Institute. So, and now the announcement that Paul made just now. In light of all that, putting all that in context, what do you think would be the top 2-3 priorities for IAIP over the next 2 to 3 years? Where would most of our resources, time, energy, effort be spent?
Good question. Our priorities are very clear. For the next 2 years, we have to and we will focus on increasing our member base. Like Paul mentioned, for India, with such a large country with over 3,500 charter pendings and over 1,000 lapsed members is a very, very large number. We have only 1,300 of us. We need to see this number rise significantly. We need to get more and more investment professionals come into the fold of our membership. And that is where the energy of the society would be devoted. Of course, we will do that while continuing our normal activities which we do every year, which is continue our monthly investment series and continuing education events. We'll do the IRC, we will do the India conference, we will do scholarships, etc. We'll do everything, but our focus will also be on increasing the membership and really go it region by region, every parts of the country, to ensure that we can bring more investment professionals into our fold as members.
Thank you. So Sunil, you spoke about how CFA Charter made you stand out, and you spoke about the joy and benefits of being a part of IAIP, being a part of CFA Institute. We have a lot of young members here as well who have very good intentions of wanting to volunteer, but they are constantly juggling with their professional life, time commitments. I mean, you did a brilliant job with a thriving professional career. Firstly, you set up the society, you became the president, now as your BOJ responsibilities, you are contributing. So what advice would you give our members here, how to juggle these various things and still make a success of it?
So, I have a firm belief in life. I'll say in Hindi and translate it for my English friends. Time hota nahi hai, nikalna padta hai. So no one has time, you have to remove time. So frankly, I like to be always involved in something. So I was the chairman of my society for 9 years, housing society, and you know how good that job is. I am on the managing committee of my sports club, and I do play cricket sometimes. And I was involved in the society. I was also the founder of the Association of NSE Members of India.
Oh, wow.
So when I was on the broking side. So I think, what it does, frankly, is it keeps you involved, it keeps you busy, it keeps you up to date with what is happening, and which is a very, very important thing in all our professional life, because it is not like the earlier days that if you have passed an exam, you can just be that privileged person to reap the benefit of you having passing that exam for years and years. Now, whether you are a doctor or an engineer or an investment professional, the world is changing. It's the world of disruption, world of dynamism. And I think these forums make you remain updated. And what it also does when you are involved is that it ensures that you attend those events. And I think that is also very important, because if you're not as involved, then even if you want to attend events, even if you want to get involved, you will have that lethargy. Okay, aaj nahi chalo, kal chale jate, not today, some other day. So I think it definitely adds. And it will also enable you to become leaders. I think not everyone gets the opportunity to organize events, to speak at public forums, to interact with the who's who of the investment world at least. And I think these forums also, at least for the young professionals, give a platform to practice to become leaders, in a sense. And the good thing is that all the fellow members are friends. So that comfort level is very, very high. So irrespective whether the fees is 325 to 100, that doesn't mean that we go back to 325. But I think there is a lot of value to becoming a member, and there is even more value of volunteering, for the society.
I hope more of our members are encouraged to participate in our activities going forward. Vidhu, we spoke about some of the membership survey findings, and we saw that employability ranks very highly as far as things that our members would want from the society, want from the institute. And now with CFA India office here, it's been a year with the dedicated resources on the ground. Could you talk to us a bit about what measures have been taken in employer outreach, and what's the game plan going forward, since this is something so important to our members?
This is my dedicated resource in the room. Amit, are you around? I think he's in some, yeah.
Must be in the
He's
box.
near the bar.
Yeah. He's in a client meeting somewhere.
Why don't you answer?
No, I'm answering. I just wanted him to, so yeah, he's outside. So we have a multi-pronged approach. So Amit Chakravarti, most of you know him.
Yeah,
There he is, there he is. You found him. So Amit was complaining, by the way, when he just joined, that everybody thinks that his job is to find a job. Like the moment he came in, people would go to him with a CV and say, like what they tell you, that find me a job. That's not what he does. What he does is he builds relationships with and helps all of us build relationships with some key institutions. So we have about 25, 30 large firms, asset management firms, sell-side firms, private wealth firms, and so on, who are employers of CFA charter holders, and we are trying to build close, long-standing relationships with them and develop a value proposition so that they understand who we are and why they should value charter holders and so on. And we are starting to see some results with, from these relationship building exercises. That is the first prong of the multi-pronged approach. The other thing that you saw is the brand campaign itself, because while we go and talk to people in one-on-one meetings, if they're driving in and they see Jaina and Anil on the billboard, they've already seen CFA, so it's easier to talk to them about CFA. So we have the brand campaign, we have testimonials, we have success stories, and so on and so forth. The marketing and communications team at CFA does a lot of things which help put the word out there to our stakeholders. Third, we work with partners. So we had the CFO event in the morning. We work with many other partner organizations who themselves have the distribution and who have visibility, so that we get to know more people. And lastly, we are doing a lot of work to improve the employability of our people passing level 3, so that when they are in an interview situation, they do better, and the brand that we are promising is actually getting delivered. So there are many things that we are doing, and we are always open to suggestions from your side in terms of who we should meet, what we should tell them, how we should interact with the community, and so on and so forth. It's a learning process. It's a team thing. I'm sure that each one of you can be brand ambassadors and help us take the CFA deeper into your respective organizations. So these are the things that we're doing.
Okay. Nick, welcome on board. 5th day on the job. Any first impressions?
5th day on the job, and 3rd time I've been drinking in that time. So it feels like I've come to the right place.
He's having a good time.
When I was first contacted about the opportunity of working with the CFA, I only really knew about the Institute as a purchaser of your services. My background is in wealth management. And I guess in twofold. One is the services you provided our organization that we could pass on to our clients, but probably just as importantly, hiring people to come and work in our products and services area. And the one thing that the CFA always gave me was I would be sitting in front of someone who was intelligent, committed, knew their product, and it would always be a great conversation, even if it didn't lead to a hire. And that was very exciting. As I got to meet Paul and meet other people around the Institute, I was also bowled over by the passion that you all have for the industry within which you work. That's very compelling if you're from the outside looking in. And now I feel I'm slightly on the inside and hoping to help you and support you with the things that you want to do in India and in the wider context for me anyway around Asia Pacific. That again is a very exciting opportunity. Obviously, Paul has now made my targets much easier to achieve within India, so thank you, Paul. I hope you remember that at the end of the year. I'm sure you will. But also, India has been close to my heart over the last 7 years. I was, as I say, CEO of the Coots International Business, responsible also for RBS Private Banking's wealth management operations here in India. And I'm really looking forward to working with you and the other societies around Asia Pacific to try and achieve the mission that Paul articulated so well. I do believe we have a vitally important role to play in the good of society, and isn't that a great thing to be part of as a team?
Thank you. We hope to see a lot of you in India now.
You will. This, as I said, second week here, you'll see me many times.
So we'll open the floor for questions. Please feel free to ask. Any questions for any of our leaders here?
Yeah.
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Is it working now? Oh, cool. Okay. Welcome, Nick. As you said, wealth management is, and I think, Paul, you mentioned wealth management is pretty key. 30% of the membership is in wealth management. But Nick, you pointed out it was always the product and services people that would have the CFA qualification rather than the relationship managers. Talking to wealth managers, I've spent 20 years in that industry. They struggle to do CFP, let alone CFA.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think we could do to make CFA something that they would want to do? It's, as it stands, in my opinion, it's overkill for an RM. But do you think a different version, like what you have CIPM, whatever, a different version, or do you really intend to woo RMs to actually do the CFA?
I think the answer to that actually comes from clients of wealth managers rather than us trying to pontificate about whether we should be changing things or not. Because in my experience, clients are becoming much more challenging about the quality of the individuals they sit in front. And what wealth managers have attempted to do is kind of have the brains in one room and the relationship management skills in another. And I think as we move forward, we need to get the brains and the relationship management skills together in one individual. And from that perspective, I would say the CFA programs are as relevant going forward to a very good wealth manager as they would be to someone in investment management.
That's very depressing. So drinking and playing golf is no longer good enough, Nick, or,
Only at the weekend.
Any more questions?
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
In terms of employer outreach, we spoke about quite a bit about it. But I think with the general purpose of CFA being working towards the clients, perhaps at the India level, we are not perhaps reaching out enough to the mass people and the mass investor base to actually tell them what the importance of a CFA charter holder. So while the employer, given it's more financial oriented and a lot of people would know of qualifications, but the common investor out there, he wouldn't be knowing of what the CFA is, because most of the Indian households would know of an MBA or a CA, and they've heard that all their lives. But the CFA for him, because it's so much for him ultimately, there's perhaps one step forward we could perhaps move on that. So any comments would be appreciated.
I can take it. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the number of things that we are doing in that direction. The ad campaign itself intends to speak to the customer of these companies. So if you are dealing with a CFA, if you see the message there, if you're dealing with a CFA, you're dealing with somebody who is different and better than someone who is not a CFA. Hopefully that message will land. Secondly, we are trying to help small firms led by CFA charter holders. We are trying to put together a program where if you are running a advisory service or a small firm with CFA charter holders, to put the word out to your customers and so on. We are also trying to work with the community. For instance, I talked about the event we are doing with NSDL on what does good financial advice look like, what is the future of investment advice. So those sort of things. One of the things we will do perhaps later in the year is a series of events where we will put some of you on the stage to give the CFA message to the ultimate investor. So through those things, maybe as a volunteer, I think you could sort of get in touch with the society and help with some of those programs. I think what you said is bang on in terms of what we need to do. We need to reach out to the ultimate investor in different ways, and that is something which we have recognized as our priority. Jay, you want to add something?
No, I mean I would agree that it's work in progress. We've just started. Let's put it that way. The campaigns in India, the initiatives in India have just caught steam or have just gathered momentum in the last 4-5 years. Earlier on, it used to be very, very tough, especially when Sunil was the president, because we had this legal litigation with the ECFA, the other institution, and we just got out of that in 2011, and then with membership and other issues, etc. So we've just started, but that doesn't mean that it's going to take a longer time. Hopefully, in the next few years, we'll get the ball rolling. The very fact that we now have 20,000 candidates itself suggests that the program is getting visibility in India, and large number of students, aspiring investment professionals, are liking the program. So in a way, that itself is a message. But I appreciate that a lot to be done. Yeah.
We can maybe take one last question. Mike.
Hello. My question is, it's become more integrated in terms of, prices of crude oil affects all asset classes rather than just. And we see a lot of coverage in the CFA curriculum on equity and fixed income markets, but there's comprehensive coverage in alternative assets or commodities is still, I would say, it's still a gap there. Do you see the curriculum moving, the focus moving away from a more comprehensive coverage, or it would remain focused on fixed income, per se?
Yeah, I guess I'll take that one. The curriculum moves all the time. I mean, what we do is we take, roughly speaking, about 12% of the curriculum every year and take it out on the road. I mean, that sounds slightly bizarre, but we have a team called Practice Analysis that takes, that picks 12% of the topics, the learning outcome statements, and then discusses them with CIOs, groups of CIOs all around the world, here in India and elsewhere. And if you're interested in participating in that process, by the way, please do tell someone at the local society or Vidu about that. And that results in about 3 to 5% change in the curriculum every year. And the way that we look at the curriculum is that we should never be on the bleeding edge. We should be a fast follower of fashion. Because what we're trying to do is to teach, we go to someone like Sunil and say, what do you want someone who is 4 years into their profession to know? And typically the answer to that is we want them to have a very broad exposure to a whole bunch of things, including alternative assets, whether that's hedge funds, private equity, commodities, whatever it happens to be, real estate. We want them to have a broad exposure to all sorts of things, but we don't want them to be specialized in anything. So the purpose of the curriculum really is to produce that 4-year-in professional who has a very wide exposure to everything that's going on in the investment management world. And we're constantly trying to adjust the mix of those things to reflect where we are as a profession. I think you're spot on in what you're saying. When I look at the way the investment management world is moving, not perhaps so much here in India, but when I look at it in the United States, for instance, the public markets are being bypassed more and more, particularly by institutional investors. They're going direct through private equity deals or through other things. And you see that in the contraction of the number of quoted companies on the stock exchange, for instance. That's one indicator of that. And so I think, yes, I think our industry is likely to move in a number of challenging ways for us, much more into what perhaps was traditionally called the alternative world. Definitely, I think that's happening. I think quoted equities are going to be less of a factor, but we're not out there trying to lead that, we're trying to fast follow. The challenge that I feel most responsible for is that our biggest threat at the Institute is to have a program that is irrelevant. That's kind of the worst thing that could possibly happen to your institute, is that we're producing people who no one wants to hire. So that practice analysis work and trying to gauge where the industry is going is the single most important thing that we do. I'm not 100% convinced that we do it as well as we could. We perhaps don't talk to the right people. We perhaps don't listen enough. We're perhaps not moving quickly enough. So through the Board of Governors, of which Sunil is a member, we're always trying to sort of recalibrate that and look at that and prod ourselves internally to say, are we at the forefront of what's going on? And I think that, I really welcome that from members, that feedback, criticizing us for, constructively criticizing us for trying to drive the program forward to really reflect what the industry needs from us, because we're dead in the water if we're producing people that no one wants to employ.
Any more questions? One last question if anyone wants to ask, or we'll just wind up and head for drinks and dinner.
Ask the question over the drinks.
Last question is, I think over the drinks, we have a lot of time to interact with all of you. So I think thank you very much for a wonderful, engaging discussion. And I have one or two very important announcements to make before I thank the panel and open up the bar. It's really open, but still. So one very important announcement, not really announcement, but I would like to thank all of you. I mean, it's the middle of the week. All of you took time to come out of your day jobs, of your personal commitments, and make it to this event. Really appreciate that. Thank you very much. I think we also have the presence of, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of very familiar faces, a lot of close colleagues, but we also have some colleagues from the global side, global offices. We have one gentleman, Mr. Andrew, who is president of the CFA Society of Thailand. He was very kind enough to join us here. I mean, that's what I think Sunil or somebody mentioned, the power of the global community. It's so well knit. I mean, Andrew was here for some other business, and we just made a request that please do, try and visit, an event at CFA Society in India. So really wonderful. Thank you very much. And with that, I would like to just sign off on behalf of everybody over here. Please do take time to go to our official social media pages. We have our technology team, Aditya and colleagues over here who work very hard. We have official Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, all of it. Please do take time to just at least click the like button so you keep getting the regular updates and the membership renewal reminders, if I may say it that way, and the value buy that we are all going to make.
There is a selfie
Thank you very
booth,
much.
right?
Selfie
Selfie booth. The selfie booth outside.
Yeah, so and there is a very unique thing which has been set up by the marketing colleague Salil and team. There is a selfie booth. So all of you, please take time to go with your friends or colleagues or somebody whom you've met for the first time, or somebody whom, let's say you want to have a photograph clicked with Sunil or with Jayesh or Paul or whatever. Just drag them to the counter over there and say, sir, I'll just have a small drink with you, and by that time just the photo will get clicked, and I think you'll get a printout, a very magical thing, and it'll get posted on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and blah blah whatever. So it's a very unique thing. We have never done it before. I urge all of you to take benefit of it and try it out and give us some feedback on that. Okay? So thank you very much all, and we look forward to welcoming all of you again in various forthcoming events. It's a full house. Many of you I know have been visiting only in such kind of events once in a year, but do take time to continue your engagement and come to us for many more events on an ongoing basis. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I mustn't tread on your foot.
Yeah, I didn't want my foot to show in the photograph.
Thank you.
Thanks. Oh, so hungry, I tell you.